A leopard never changes its spots. If your man was a cheat, he's cheating now. Why don't we think that way about the system? Why don't we think that way about the government and what the government may be up to? We need to change. This is something that is extraordinary. And we can get excited when we see something that pops up to say, black people are more predisposed to it. Yes, on some levels, maybe it is true. Maybe there are some crazy white folks who want to kill off all the black people. Greetings and the warmest of welcomes to this week's ORT. Welcome to this week's ORT, sponsored by the two great principles of low stress and no harm in all things we do. And of course, I thank you for sharing with me your most valuable asset, your time. Now I want you to visualize on a plate of lovely jerk chicken, rice and peas with macaroni and cheese, escovitch fish, or fried fish in Elsha with festival, or even being at a jerk festival eating some jerk pork. It sounds tasty, right? Now I want you to ask yourself a question. Where is the most dangerous place in the world? America maybe? Britain? How about Mexico? Every year they're killing thousands of people in Mexico, so it could be Mexico, right? The answer is none of those places. The most dangerous place in the world is actually between your nose and your chin. Yes, that's right, your mouth. Why? Why is your mouth the most dangerous place in the world? It's because what you say can kill yourself and others, but more importantly, what you put in your mouth can also kill you. So keep that in mind as we go through this post. This program is called the COVID-19 Experience, and it's different to the other programs that are out on this channel because it's looking primarily, but not exclusively, at the African diaspora and how it's living and coping with COVID-19 and the lockdown. Personally, I think we can learn from each other, sharing our experiences, and on that point, whilst a lot of you send me comments, personally, I'd prefer you to put them in the comment section of the post so that other people can learn from your point of views and your wisdom. So I'm going to ask you to do something for me in the name of love. Think of your children. Think of your family members, your mom, your sister, your brother, your father. Think about yourself and ask yourself, what is it that you would do for your loved ones? Especially during this crisis. What would you do to prove that you love them? The reason I'm asking this question is because this is the foundational thought that has been triggered by COVID-19. We are all being asked, what is it that we would truly do to prove that we love our loved ones? When you see capitalism, the jewel in the crown of the European experiment that started in 1492, you'll hear me say those numbers over and over again. 1492, that's the year Columbus set sail. When you see that Western civilization is willing to sabotage, sacrifice, and attack its own power and its own people in an act of personality disorder, self-harm, it tells you something. Because it's fine to mash up Jamaica, it's fine to mash up Cuba, South Africa, Zimbabwe, it's fine to mash up those places. But to tear down the whole structure within Western Europe tells you how determined the powers that be are in pushing through their agenda, whatever that agenda is. Whether you want to say it's 5G, whether you want to say it's a chip in the forearm, whether you want to say it's about taking away civil liberties and keeping us locked up in our house eternally, something is going on. That we cannot deny. We know that something unusual is taking place. We observe it all the time. We see it on a daily basis. But somehow we're not accepting what we're seeing in front of our eyes. And we'll get to the reason behind that as we go through this post. Paul Joseph Goebbels was a Nazi politician in the German Reich. He was in charge of propaganda between 1933 and 1945. And he said, if you tell a lie big enough and keep on repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. Some of us believe that the virus is a real thing that is taking place because the public speakers, just like Joseph Goebbels, are leading us into believing their narrative because we don't hear the alternative narratives. If you turn on the news, whether it's France 24, whether it's Al Jazeera, whether it's BBC, they're roughly saying the same thing. Ask yourself why that is. Why are you not hearing alternative points of view? Why are you not hearing how you can organically strengthen your immune system? Why are you not being told about the adverse effects of social distancing? Why? This is a democracy. People are allowed to have a variety and diverse range of views, but yet we're getting a monotone, constantly repeated narrative. Why is that? Doesn't that strike you as odd? This week I saw a post from Tipper Irie saying he can see police driving around which part he lives, wearing no masks, sitting close to each other, not wearing any gloves, and he was struck at how their behavior contradicts the information what he's hearing. As Joseph Goebbels said, if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people eventually come to believe it. And you believe it. You believe it. Why do you believe it? Because we're all susceptible to this type of approach. It's like marketing. Do you know the people who fall for marketing? All of us. If you watch a TV program and an advertisement comes up, one of the ads are going to get you. After a while, you're going to go out there and buy something that you didn't need. You're going to start to follow the information that you see on the ad. They're now talking about domestic violence, increase of domestic violence because people are locked up. And they're saying that they need more facilities for women. Fair enough, you may say. But what about spiritual violence? Because what they're talking about is just physical violence. Violence is not just physical. Violence is also spiritual. Violence takes on many different forms. So we're now getting this narrative that it's only women who are susceptible to the tensions and stress of being cooped up. It's not. Both are, men and women. But the more they push this narrative, the more you're unable to unpick it. We are all susceptible to their tricks. We are all susceptible to their organizations that know how to play the mind games. And guess what? They don't stop playing the mind games because they know the mind games work. They know it works. So when you're thinking about us using dairy products, drinking milk and all the rest of it, again, there are scientists like Milton Mills who will tell you that milk is not good for us. We're not meant to drink it. But the lobby groups and the marketing, they know that they can get us to take dairy products. The same for white meat over red meat. The only reason why white meat was suggested to be a better meat was because of the mad cow disease, and the poultry lobby thought this was a good time for us to go out there now and tell them that chicken is actually better. It's not better. It's a lie. Same with sugar, same with salt, same with material goods. They just find opportunities to hoodwink you. They also know that we are predisposed to being emotionalized. And I'll give you an example. In the lead up to the British election last year before Boris was elected, I knew some people who are staunch Corbynistas. They love Jeremy Corbyn. They would go around each day on social media posting things, describing Boris Johnson in the worst terms possible. However, these people love the news and they watch the news. And once Boris Johnson became sick, you could say supposedly sick, with COVID-19, they then took to social media wishing him well. Now, why is that? It's not because they're two-faced, which you may think that they're two-faced. It's because, again, they're exposing themselves to this media which manipulates their feelings. We can all get emotionalized. It happens with all the data that we expose ourselves to. We get put into a position where we feel that we are now having to act on the information in front of us. And to see people who were such staunch supporters of Jeremy Corbyn change their tune so suddenly, for me, is evidence of how powerful this machinery is. If your man was a cheat, he's cheating now. Why don't we think that way about the system? Why don't we think that way about the government and what the government may be up to? We seem to kind of fall into this lapse and just get on with things, as if to say, nobody would be so wicked as to want to have a virus or a master plan that would take away our manly and womanly rights. We can't keep thinking like that. Thinking like that is dangerous. In my view, the state does not have our best interest at heart. We would like to think otherwise, but the truth is, it doesn't. If we're just putting on the gloves, the mask, and doing the social distancing, then we've been conned. We've been got at. Just like those Corbynistas who watched the news and saw Boris becoming supposedly unwell with COVID-19 were also got at. They changed their view because they hated that man. When I say hated, I mean literally hated him. So you've been got at. If you're going home and you're eating fish and you're eating meat and you're not alkaline in your body, you've been got at. And don't forget, one of the important things about dietary changes is it's not when a person changes in the house, it's when everybody changes. The potential of it becoming a reality is greater when everybody does it together. We mustn't surrender to denial. Very natural process. But denial suppresses anxiety. And we need some anxiety now to move us to action. So don't run away from feelings that are challenging. Actually, go in the direction of the challenging feelings, become a researcher, and make the changes in your life. I've included some powerful links for you to watch from people who have the know about Bill Gates and people like Anthony Fauci, a man who has, for me, unchecked power. He's had too much access to American presidents, not a president. John Dalbert Acted said that power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So while the presidents have changed, he's been the common denominator, reinforcing his ideas around health. And let me remind you that the health systems are not dealing with health. What they're dealing with is two things. If you become sick, come into our hospital and we'll cut something out of you, or we'll put you on some drugs. Health starts as a defense mechanism to prevent illness. So these people don't know anything about health. And I'm not no doctor, but I can make sense out of nonsense. They don't know anything about health. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We are in a state of absolute power. Why? Because we're in a state of panic. If we're panicking, we cannot think. If we cannot think, then we are pliable, just like a piece of putty in their hands. If they say tomorrow that people need to wear blue because blue is a defensive color against COVID-19, you will see people out in the streets wearing blue. I guarantee you that. Ask yourself, who decides who decides? On some levels, they say that presidents and prime ministers are not elected, they are selected. But who is the person doing the selecting? Who are these people? We don't see them, we don't know them, but we know that they're there. So if we know they're there, then why aren't we asking more questions, or making changes, or starting a movement that asks the questions and makes the changes? Why are we not doing it? Grumbling in front of the TV is not an act of love. Grumbling in front of your tablet or your device while you're watching a YouTube clip is not an act of love. The operative word there is act. What is the act that you're doing to show that you've learned something about the way the system is working and you're willing to make the change? Where people fear the government, we are in tyranny. When the government fears the people, we have liberty. That was written by Thomas Jefferson. Now, if Thomas Jefferson can say that about the own power structure that he was deeply involved in, that tells us something. Like I said, we must remember the year 1492, 1492, 1492, when Columbus set sail. We are involved in a European project that has been in place for hundreds of years, and they have been dependent on the means in which to enforce their will. COVID-19 and the increase in technology to monitor surveillance and surveil the population is an operative moment for them. Trust me. As we say in Jamaica, take sleep and mark that. I recently posted on this channel a documentary called The Jamaican Wolves. And out of that, one of the things that I wanted people to be able to come to terms with was how consistently the system is determined in getting its own will, whether that's suppressing women's rights, whether that's about suppressing the rights of the miners during the Battle of Orgreave, whether that's the way they use immigrants to tell a story or use immigrants to rebuild the United Kingdom or America, Western Europe, put it that way, the powers that be are usually leading the zeitgeist, not the other way around. There was a time when people used to think that a cashless society or having microchips implanted in us was something that wouldn't happen. It was in the far away and distant future. But we're nearly cashless now. There are already people who are willingly taking microchips as a means of being able to access society. And the clips that I've included below, in one of them, there's a doctor saying, what's going to happen is basically you're going to have a passport that will allow you to get into work, that will allow you to go into the bars, that going to the sports stadium, drive your cars, on the basis of you being able to prove that you've taken the vaccine. Without it, you will not be able to access society. So your home will be gone because you won't be able to pay your rent or your mortgage. You won't be able to buy food. You probably, if your parents live in a different district, you probably won't be able to go into that district. And who knows, maybe there may be imprisonment or other types of fines that's placed upon you as a citizen as a result of you not taking the vaccine. This thing will not be left to personal choice. For the system to work, they will not make it an arbitrary thing. You will not be able to say, oh, well, maybe next year I'll take it. No. You will have to take it. It's important that you watch the clips, you hear what this person from the inside is saying about his knowledge about Bill Gates and other people like Anthony Fauci. And let's not forget, this isn't just about the black community. It's just that the black community usually get the raw end of the stick first. Like I've asked you before, develop the capacity to see culture over color. I have faith that you can move beyond that type of behavior. I have faith that you can actually start to research into things and look on a deeper level of what is taking place as opposed to just looking at the superficial elements, someone's skin color, and listening to a few sound bites on the news and following them. You're far better than that. And now is the time to show that. Now is the time to show that you can do your research on an individual. And that's why I've included the links below with this post. And we can get excited when we see something that pops up to say, black people are more predisposed to it. Yes, on some levels, maybe it is true. Maybe there are some crazy white folks who want to kill off all the black people. But just getting excited for a moment is not going to create the change that we need to have in our communities. I thank you for sharing with me your most valuable asset, your time. Included below are related links to this discussion. Please share, comment, and subscribe. And remember, talk the thing.